In May of 2022, a new outbreak of monkeypox cases was reported in various countries throughout the globe. Here in the U.S., new cases of this disease have been on the rise, and the Biden administration has officially called the outbreak a public health emergency. On tonight's episode, we're breaking down the facts of monkeypox, this new outbreak, and the steps we can take towards prevention. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Keiko Talks. On this episode, as you know, we are talking about the new disease that has gotten everyone kind of in a tizzy.
Frazzled, honey.
Frazzled, yes, for sure. That's the word. Monkeypox. I really didn't know what this disease was. When I heard, I kind of laughed because I was like, oh my God, not another,
Here we go again.
Animal based disease or whatever. And then sometimes you think that stuff is a hoax because it's like, they're just making stuff up now. You feel like you read that on the National Enquirer or something, on one of those tabloids.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like, something fake. But no, that's the actual, name of the disease. That's the colloquial name. Obviously, it has an actual scientific name. But the colloquial name is monkeypox, and it definitely is a disease that has seen an uptick in cases recently since about May this year of 2022. So we wanted to definitely address it because we hadn't really talked about the public health issue that has been happening in our world and has been happening for the last 2 years now. So we just wanted to do a deep dive into monkeypox, share the correct information with people because, obviously, as we know, misinformation spreads like wildfire. So we'll start off by defining what monkeypox actually is. As always, I like to give definitions because that helps us with the rest of our discussion. So monkeypox is basically a rare disease in which is spread through direct contact with the monkeypox virus. So it's in the varroa virus family. It's similar to smallpox, but it's not related to chickenpox. So the big thing to know about monkeypox is it does create a visible, the symptoms are visible on the skin, right? So it's I wouldn't call it a topical disease. Would you call it that? Or it shows up on the skin. It's a virus, so it's happening inside the body, but a symptom happens.
There's just you actually see the manifestations on the outside of the body.
Yeah, it's not like COVID where it's respiratory, so it's everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Inside. But monkeypox is something you can see. So, like what smallpox was, I believe smallpox left little rashes and almost like
same thing with chickenpox. You had that little, it's like that rash, those little bumps, like hives almost.
Yeah, almost like hives. Yeah. So that's one of the symptoms, and I think that's what makes it what a pox virus is because of that symptom, showing up on the skin as a little
those lesions.
Lesions.
I think that's what they call them in this case.
Yeah. So, and a little tidbit of history: monkeypox was actually discovered in 1958, so it's been around since the mid-20th century. So it's discovered in 1958. There were 2 outbreaks of a pox-like disease at the time that they found in a colony of monkeys. So that's really where the name monkeypox comes from. It's not that it actually is only derived from monkeys, monkeys have it and then they give it to others. They just happen to find an outbreak in a study of monkeys. And so they didn't know what to call it other than monkeypox because the monkeys had it.
They're really great at naming these diseases.
That's kind of
any more creative.
Yeah, and I think it's also a misnomer too because people think monkeys are breeding this disease, but they really don't know where it comes from. It could come from insects. They don't know.
Yeah,
but the monkeys were the ones who it showed up in. Which, if we know biologically and evolutionary, monkeys are the closest species to human species, so it makes sense actually that humans could also contract that disease genetically. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So like I was saying, they're really not the source of the disease is not really known. They just call it that. They just call it monkeypox. Again, that's misleading as crap, but so it's a lot of stuff,
You say, welcome to America.
Yeah. So, but in my other research too, I found out too that it really is a fairly contained disease. It's not something like they were saying there's been outbreaks, but it hasn't been like on the scale of something like a COVID or respiratory disease where it really is
An
thousands
issue.
upon hundreds,
Yeah.
thousands of people who are either infected or end up like in fatality because of this
Hmm.
disease. This is much more disease in the like lower thousands, if that sort of thing.
Hmm.
That's what I found in my research. But I think it's also because it's slightly harder to spread this. Airborne is the easiest way I would imagine to spread any disease versus
Yeah.
a skin to skin contact disease. It would take longer to get to people. That's what I would say.
Yeah, because you have to come into contact versus airborne is just in the air.
It's in the air, yeah, which can spread to, an airborne disease can spread to 10 people at one time. A monkeypox
Hmm.
virus is one person infected at a time.
If you're in
So
contact.
if you're in contact. And once you see those signs and symptoms, it's easier to go ahead and isolate yourself
Hmm.
so as not to contract it. But something like COVID, what actually made it so difficult is people didn't really know they had it, and they were still
Hmm.
spreading it while being totally
Exactly.
unaware that they were having it. So like they would come into contact with, especially in big cities, you might come into contact with a new potential, host for the disease, the virus.
Not even knowing.
Not even knowing you can come into contact with 50 people in a day. That spreads so much
Hmm.
quicker than something like monkeypox, where if you already see the signs on your skin, you can control it to maybe the 3 to 4 people you might come into contact with. Like,
Facts. I think also too with like COVID, for example, COVID mimics a lot of other um, like respiratory
mm-hmm.
things.
So it's hard to tell.
And so, yeah, exactly. Like it's hard to be like, oh, this is just COVID. Like this is distinctly to COVID. It's, it kind of mimics a regular cold. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of mimics even the flu. So
Yeah, agreed.
it was harder to be like, you know what, maybe I should stay out of work because I have COVID. It was more like maybe this is just a cold,
Yeah,
depending on your symptoms and just like how you felt overall. So
yeah, I would agree with that. So I actually don't see monkeypox going in the same direction as something like COVID. I don't think at all, actually, because it's
I hope not.
the
We
type
can't
of,
afford another one.
yeah, like the type of disease that this is. I don't think that it's as easily spread. You know what I mean?
I don't know because I have read different things depending on who you ask, right? And I don't know. I don't know about this one either.
Well,
So
we can definitely talk about that because I do feel like I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the research that's ultimately done on.
yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
I'm going by
I
my
think there's a lack of research, first of all. So that's
yeah. That's also
kind of
it.
like with COVID, you just are kind of taking a guess, seeing what may or may not be the cause, whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
But we see how COVID, because there was a lack of knowledge around it, we see how quickly COVID took things downhill versus if there was a better knowledge around it, which the coronavirus, viruses mutate just like humans do, evolution kind of thing. It was not new either,
So
but it was just this new strand that was really just taking a toll on the human population, and then thus you get COVID-19, and then the I guess it was an pandemic, and then you get a couple years later we're still dealing with the same thing here. So
I would say COVID is probably still in pandemic. It's not quite an epidemic yet, is it?
I was going to say I don't know. I haven't researched it enough to be like, is it I think I want to say it definitely is a pandemic, but I don't know about an epidemic. But it is worldwide, so I don't know. I don't know if they've classified it
Yeah.
as that. So
I always thought an epidemic was something that was like changed the course of history. You know,
not
I
necessarily.
think COVID was bad, but I don't know if it's like going to change the course of history. Unless it does, I don't know.
You mean like
The flu was an epidemic, I guess. When it like
yeah?
the early 1900s, that was an epidemic, I guess, or was it just a pandemic? I don't know.
I want to say it was an epidemic because Here, let me look it up. So, an epidemic is a sudden increase in an infectious disease in a certain geographical area. A pandemic is an outbreak of disease across several countries. So, a pandemic is worse than an epidemic.
Oh,
I
damn.
should know that. I'm literally a public health major and I don't remember. But, anyways,
Okay, well,
that's
now
what the difference is.
clarify. So then,
Well, it's definitely a pandemic. So, there you go.
pandemic. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so I guess it is going to be in the history books, probably.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the way it affected our capitalist America here is definitely going to be in the books.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's unfortunate. Who knew? Like living through historical times is so stressful. Like
I know.
Like I'm living through unprecedented history. Let's just
seriously.
Let's go back to.
This is not something I really want to remember. Let's be honest.
Right. Well, let's go back to the normal. Well, heck,
seriously,
it's not normal anymore.
Like, what is normal at this point? I don't think there's a such thing anymore. No. Like, I still wear my mask and stuff out.
Yeah, I started wearing my mask out again.
I've never stopped.
Well, I got a booster recently for COVID.
Yeah, me too. That was painful.
Yeah, it was a little. I was sore.
No, I was actually sick the next day.
No, I
feel like my immune system is trash though, so I need to watch out for monkeypox for real.
That could be it. You should do more exercise.
I probably should, and probably I try to eat better, but see how that works.
That really helps too, though.
Yeah, see, I don't eat. I wonder if my lack of eating meat and stuff matters.
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure in protein heavy food there might be certain things that really do actually help your immune system stay fortified.
Yeah, it could be. I can see that.
I don't know.
I feel like everything we've been told is a lie.
I mean, I eat chicken and I guess I eat
chicken. That's a strong negative.
I have myself a burger every once in a while.
Gross. Thou shalt not harm the cow.
Look, somebody else harmed them, okay?
You just finished it for him?
I just finished it.
Yeah, that's real good. Anyways, let's get back on topic.
So some signs and symptoms of monkeypox are this, and this is good just to note. The rash near the genitals or the anus. Should we explain the anus? People know what that is.
I mean, I would hope so.
Okay, anus. Look it up if
you don't. Your butt, okay?
Yeah.
Just
your arsehole.
Yeah. Your you should have possibly 1 to 3 holes. That one very far up, you know what I mean? On the other side.
Holes?
There we go.
3?
Huh? A female has 3. A guy has 2.
What?
Okay. Your lady parts 2. Your back there in the back, your trunk has 1. Oh God, should we do an anatomy class?
No, I thought it was only 2.
Where?
Your lady parts, and
you have to use the restroom.
Okay,
so
that's not
number 1.
Orifice. That's
that is definitely a hole.
But that's a very. I'm talking about something. Okay, never mind.
It's a hole. Like what?
I mean, it is a hole, but it's that's the end of your urethra too. That's different. That's a different.
Yeah, hole. But it's still an exit. It's an exit point. Same thing with the other one where you have your cycle, and then the one back there in the trunk where you let everything else, all the waste out.
Okay, that makes sense. I thought you were talking about there was another hole that's the same as your anus or your vaginal.
Oh no.
I thought you were saying on that level. I was like,
now your mouth.
How many holes you got?
Honey, we need an anatomy class.
I wouldn't count the urethra as
it is one though.
I mean, it is, but it's so to me that's connected to your
No. See, that's why women need to learn their anatomy. We need to do an anatomy class on here.
I knew this. I knew that. I thought you.
No, ma'am. Have you ever taken an anatomy class?
I took biology.
An anatomy class, not biology.
I mean, we barely talked about. We did like one little small unit on like human reproductive. We spent a hell of time on plant reproductive. I know that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, have you ever taken an anatomy class? Because that's what anatomy is about. You go through the entire body system.
No.
Yeah, God, they should make that standard instead of these freaking other classes.
I mean, I'm one of those people. I try to know my body though. Like I try to.
Yeah, but apparently you didn't know there was 3 holes.
I knew there was 3 holes, but I was equating a hole to like something like an orifice, something that kind of
that
like
is. It's just smaller than the rest.
Okay, all right. There's 3 holes.
I'm genuinely concerned.
And
what are they teaching children? What are they teaching them?
Okay, I guess I was thinking about size here.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's okay. I give you credit. Most people probably do not know that. So.
Well, because it throws you off. As a woman, you normally think one hole or another, or like vaginal and then anus. You know, that's your first thought when you think of like holes in your body. You like have to remember. Oh wait, I actually like have a urethra.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's a smaller.
I suppose.
That's all I'm saying. And I just think about the urethra as like a totally different system because that's connected to your kidneys and all of that.
I mean, it is a part of a different system, I guess.
That's why I was thinking about it.
Got it. Okay.
Like, you got something else?
We're going to let you slide now. We're going to let you slide today. We're going to let you slide.
Why we had that discussion, cleared that up.
Facts.
Okay, so 3 holes.
While we on the topic of monkeypox. That monkey.
Oh, geez.
Oof, I need to go to bed. Oof.
Okay, so back to the signs and symptoms. Now that we had another discussion on female anatomy here.
Right.
Okay, so there's rashes near your genitals or anus. Could be in other areas like your hands, feet, chest, mouth, or your face. You can have things that are similar to COVID, like fevers, chills, swollen lymph nodes. You could have headaches, backaches, respiratory symptoms. And it's spread by, like we were saying, it can be spread from the time that the symptoms start until the rash has actually healed. Once all scabs have fallen off and the new skin layer has formed. So the illness typically lasts between 2 to 4 weeks. I guess having that sign, that symptom of like the rash is actually physically on your body would be 2 to 4 weeks. And so you can spread it while you have that on your body, basically, until I guess all the scabs have fallen off and new skin has formed, which is wild because I think it's a longer period than COVID spread.
I think so. Yeah, because COVID is 2 weeks, I think. That's usually like the average. But this is 2 to 4 weeks, like, and that's the average. And I heard some people have had it even longer. Like it was like because all the lesions have to heal before you're not transmitting anything anymore. Because
it does take time to get your I mean, you think about a scab you have, even a couple months or whatever ago, like it does take time for that to heal.
Yeah. Depending on how big it is and stuff like that and what's coming out of it, like, oof.
Yeah. I can see
and
that.
I hear the lesions are pretty painful from what I've like.
Oh, really?
Heard.
Sheesh.
I've heard. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, it's also spread mainly via skin-to-skin contact. So that can be through sex, that's oral or vaginal or anal. Prolonged face touching fabrics that someone else has touched that had monkeypox, objects and surfaces used by somebody with monkeypox, respiratory secretion. So I'm assuming that's like, I don't know, like
mucus,
sneezes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mucus or saliva.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not respiratory. It's not. That's just in your mouth. But
okay,
I imagine it might be.
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just kind of confused by respiratory secretions. Like,
it's usually like mucus, anything that's like coming out of your like lungs.
Gotcha. So then sneeze.
But I mean, saliva, because saliva's not coming out of your lungs, but I mean, it is. I mean, I imagine your saliva can be in contact with the respiratory secretion. So,
yeah. Well, if you're sneezing and you're sneezing out mucus or whatever, I'm sure it mixes in with your saliva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Highly possible.
Yeah. So then kissing, hugging, that sort of like touching stuff, It can also be spread from pregnancy. So like it can spread to a fetus through the placenta.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It's also possible to get monkeypox through infected animals. So watch your pets. That's interesting.
Wow. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I did some research at the CDC. FYI, all this information is coming from the CDC, so I wanted to make sure that it was like a reputable organization. Either the CDC or the World Health Organization, WHO.
Mm-hmm.
Just so people know that I'm not just getting it from like, meddoctor.com.
Joe down the street.
Yeah, like whoever,
Joe told me.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's what the CDC has determined as like how it spreads, signs, symptoms, and kind of just the background on monkeypox, because they apparently have known about this disease for a while now, since 1958, but it's been something that's been fairly contained, like smallpox has been contained,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think something we should definitely talk about is like how they are kind of making this very much like almost like an STD type. Like that's how the CDC is trying to spread awareness about this as like this is an STD without calling it an STD.
For sure. Yeah, and I get like because you can transmit this through like sexual contact, but the thing is it's beyond that. Like it's more of a skin to skin thing, which involves a level of typically skin to skin contact when you're having that type of intercourse with somebody. So, but it's not limited to
only sexual.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's misleading to be like, oh, well, only if you have, sexual relations with this person. When you literally could just be at, for example, the store and you accidentally touch somebody and now you have monkeypox.
Yeah.
We need to, like there has to be a level of like proper education around that because that's very misleading.
I agree. And I think I think this is like when AIDS was an epidemic. I'm not sure what it was at the time, but I think this is how it gets into stigma really easily.
Yeah, for sure.
It is actually the absolute wrong direction for someone to take a medical condition. Because then you get so much misinformation, and then people don't want to go get the help that they need, or people are so or people are afraid to like walk to the street or like do the like it becomes hysteria in a way that is not helpful to actually contain the disease.
So, and it really doesn't have to be if there was just proper education.
Yes, it doesn't have to be. And I think that's why they're not calling it on the website. They won't call it like an STD, but they are. When you look on the CDC, a lot of the stuff they're tailoring to or saying the signs and symptoms and how it's spread and stuff is, and the prevention methods that they suggest are a lot about limiting sexual contact.
Which I think that's like.
Noticed a lot of that while I was reading.
Yeah, I can see that. But I think that's so like. That's just so misleading because it's not just sexual contact. Like it's literally just people who are skin to skin.
I agree with that. I
mean, you can be skin to skin. Like me going to work, I could bump somebody at work. Are you kidding? And I mean, that's just so misinforming.
I think that's true too. I think they have to cover their bases because they don't want to leave out and be like, oh no, it can't be spread through sex. But I think the emphasis on it being sexual, sexually transmitted or leaning in that direction, I think it does mislead that people are going to start making it, oh, well, this is just a gay disease.
Sex thing, yeah.
It's just people who are sexually, active or, experimental or whatever. Those are the ones who are going to get it, not us. And it's like, then that starts to really, it brings up a lot of issues where people already see communities who are other, like, like the gay community or whatever. I'm not saying just because of them, but like they already see people who don't follow like the heteronormative standard as like dirty somehow. And I do think that this can continue to create that stigma if it's like, oh, they get
100%.
too. And that's not
100%.
Not the truth, not good. And they don't say anything about what kind of sexual interactions. This could be totally heterosexual interactions. Yep. There's plenty of STDs. Actually, I think most STDs are just spread heterosexually, not in other, you know what I mean? So that's important to realize too, that it's not just a specific group of people who get the disease and then spread it in their communities,
Facts, yeah. That's why I think it's important for like government agencies like the CDC to properly educate these things, or to talk about, is not limited to blah, blah, blah. Just because of things like that. Yeah. I have seen countless of times that like monkeypox is quote unquote like the gay disease. And like that could be further from the truth. Yeah. Anybody can get it. Literally anybody can get it. So it's not just, and it was not even just gay. It was like a mellow male type of thing. Anyone that's doing like mellow male types of sexual encounters. When I don't know, like statistically speaking, who has had more cases or whatever, but I would love to know that, just because that's what they have been saying. And that can't be further from the truth. Literally anybody can get it. One girl was saying how she doesn't even like, I think I don't know if she said she was like a virgin, but she was like, she hadn't been engaging in like sexual activity recently. And she was like, I had monkeypox. So the only thing she had done that was out of the normal was go to a concert, and somebody had rubbed up against her at this concert, and then she got monkeypox. So
not to mention a lot of the ways they're saying this stuff is spreading is stuff that happens, like I was saying, in heterosexual spaces, like concerts, touching, people rub up against each other and make out.
Yeah, just normal stuff
at like concerts all the time, and that's seen as strictly heterosexual for the most part. So I'm like, this stuff is not just in certain communities or sexual orientations. I only do this, like this can happen to anyone.
Seriously,
to educate yourself, because you don't want to just then you put yourself at risk, but also by not being educated. Because what if somebody you are with, heterosexually speaking, does have monkeypox, and with this person you're like, I can't get it, I'm not gay, like, right? No,
you were the main one with it.
Not to get said disease. It's like, I would imagine people would think heterosexually, like back in the day when AIDS was a bigger, or I don't even know if the AIDS epidemic has actually ever ended. I think it's actually still going on. But anyway, so people thinking, oh well, I'm not having male to male intercourse, so I should be fine. I'm not going to get AIDS. And then people pop up with AIDS, with HIV, with the virus, and it's like, you came into contact with somebody who has a virus. It's not just a gay thing or whatever, like, No,
I mean, literally that. And I think that's the sad thing about it, because like we've already been through this. And so, for a government agency to kind of push that notion again, it's like, come on now, we got to do better. We're in 2022 now.
I agree. I think they were trying, they took the step to not call it an STD, or to not say that it's like specifically in one sexual orientation or another. But I do think they made it clear that they're trying to say that this is a sexually it's like mostly spread through a sexual intercourse. Yeah. And I think that is, you probably should cut back on that language too, because that might be true. So you do need to state that. I think kind of overemphasizing that does make it feel like it puts in some people's minds, and we got to think about the average person here. The average person are going to be like, well, it's the people who are experimental with sex, or people who do this or do that or whatever. Yeah. It's not me. And it's like, you too, John.
Yeah. And I think it also keeps people from protecting themselves, right? Yeah. There's a level of ignorance that goes around with that knowledge of, limiting it to a certain population. And then you end up, just with the disease and pushing that around your community. And it could have been prevented if there was just adequate education. So
yeah, I wonder how much of COVID could have been stopped if there was like collective knowledge on how diseases are spread. I wonder if it would have even gotten to pandemic stage.
Probably not.
If there was like proper knowledge and people were not just willfully ignorant and were willing to like follow public health protocol.
Yeah. I feel like there were some countries that like nipped it in the bud early. They were like, they got it, you know? So I imagine there can.
I think it could have been spread a whole heck of a lot less.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, America took its time on it. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think it's because there was already so much disunion anyways. And that
yeah.
was like something that became, you know, COVID was pretty much political. It was like really even a public health concern. So people were not even looking at it as something to just like take care of ourselves. It was like, who's on the right?
I think that's like the distrust with America in the first place, is everything is so political. Like to me, even the CDC can be seen as political, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a government agency. So, you know, they kind of release what fits the narrative, in my personal opinion. So
agreed. No, I agree with that. And that's something to look at too. Like, even I wonder if there's like public health mixed with like sociology or with like psychology or just political, you know, science. That would be a really interesting course to have or to take.
It would be.
Public health is, you know, how those factors influence public health, because I think that's what this pandemic has ended up being, is like, was it actually taken seriously as a health crisis, or were people just kind of spazzing, or not, I want to say spazzing, but people did the politics take over?
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially with like COVID, politics end up just taking over at some point. So, and I think that's because, you know, it's kind of like mixing church and state kind of thing. Same thing with like these government sites, like the CDC, for example, that is ultimately ran by government dollars. So they answer to the government at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which, to me, that's a little concerning. So,
yeah. Depending on
there's no way to be like non-biased if you're being funded by the government.
Or, yeah. Well, I also think too, is like, you know, they want to keep their jobs. So
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which I understand that, because like, you know, we all need jobs essentially, unless you have something of your own. But to me, there has to be some type of separation. Like, it's kind of concerning.
Yeah, but then again, if the government doesn't fund it, our private sector is going to fund it? No,
definitely not.
I'm saying, because then that would be an organization they'd be paying to fund an organization to regulate them.
Yeah. I definitely don't think somebody would fund it, because I mean,
it's better for them.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the government funding it for the greater good, nobody would do that kind of work. And you do need that kind of work. Because
I agree.
if nobody's looking at this stuff on a grand scale, you really do have mass chaos then.
Agreed.
You know?
Yeah, and I don't think, like, because it's not, public health doesn't yield itself to like money making, really. It's just like more of like education based. And so I don't think a lot of people will want to fund it if it weren't for executive decisions. But I also think, with that being said, like, there is a lot of like protecting, let's not release this, we can't say this, like, because the government doesn't want things to be out, kind of thing. And it's like, some people deserve to know. Like, somebody needs to know these things.
I'm sure whoever their like political PR team is definitely like round the clock, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't doubt that.
I'm sure, especially after this pandemic, I feel like nobody, I mean, if you would ask the average person in like 2018 what the CDC was, I doubt anybody would have even answered it correctly.
Oh, probably not.
What CDC was. And now
I think people still don't know.
The CDC said, well, I mean, I guess I know much more about the CDC than, you know, I ever knew.
Yeah.
And now some people probably still don't know, but it's much more on the radar. I mean, they've gotten famous in a very
odd way.
An odd way that I doubt they wanted to be famous for.
Right? But, just like Fauci. Ugh, I bet he didn't see fame coming like this.
Yeah. Because, like, who takes, like, director of the CDC position and, like, becomes a celeb, you know?
Beats me.
Besides the pandemic. But,
And of all things, that's how you become famous. Like, oof.
Right? Because
Of
I feel
all
like the
things, a
CDC,
pandemic. Oof.
it's like one of those government agencies, honestly, that goes so underground. Because
Oh, yeah.
people, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, they do their job, and it's great that they do it to, like, help avoid issues like a pandemic, you know? And
Yeah.
they stay sort of silent. I don't want to say silent, but, like, they stay very underground and just kind of do their work. So
Yeah. Which I think
think
in some cases, don't be wrong, that's actually kind of necessary, so you're not scaring the public.
yeah.
So
Because otherwise, you know, they do. I mean, when you hear the CDC now, you're thinking hazmat suits coming in, like
yeah.
E.T. You seen the movie E.T.? Or they, like,
For
come in
sure.
the
Or
house,
I think there's a
like,
movie called Contagion. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but we
yeah,
had to watch it in a public
contagion.
health course.
That's what we think about when we, like, now I think we think CDC is like contagion, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
Much.
they are partly contagion. They're like, that's half their job. but the other part
For
is to
sure.
disseminate information to the public and to
Yeah.
come up with strategies of how to actually combat a disease. You know what I mean? It comes out and it becomes a public health issue, not just an individual health issue, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They monitor all sorts of diseases all the time.
Oh, yeah. And I'm talking about, like, to the basics, you know?
Yeah, they, like, even the common cold, I'm sure they monitor that. Like,
Yeah.
they do so much work behind the scenes, I think, which is where they're probably supposed to kind of be behind the scenes to just check things out.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I think that's literally what public health is. So, like, so that we're aware before it becomes a huge issue. This is, you know, we're doing, like, that preliminary work so that we have an idea of what's out there, what's to come. So.
I just don't think, you know, they ever thought, like, they'd have weekly press conferences.
Seriously, probably
Like,
not.
CDC, like, paparazzi outside, you're trying to get to your office. I mean, it's like a government job, and, like, you know, I'm sure, like, the New York Times is like, so what's happening with, like, you know, like, I'm sure they're getting bad, like, crazy.
Oh yeah, which I work, like, up the street from the CDC. I want to say they're, like, from what I've seen, they seem like they're pretty secure. Like, you're not just getting on their property.
I'm sure they only allow certain people in, but still, I'm sure they've had much more requests for, like, media attention.
Oh yeah,
in the last 2 years than they've ever had.
100%. I imagine.
I don't know how long Fauci has been there, but I'm pretty sure nobody knew his name before.
Oh yeah, I couldn't tell you. And I don't know if he's been there for a while or not, but I had no idea who it was. So.
But yeah, so I'm just sure that's not how they expected to get famous. They're 15 minutes of fame, but, you know, there you go. It happens.
Yeah, to the best of us.
So, yeah. So some of the prevention methods for monkeypox specifically that the CDC is recommending is definitely safer sex. So talking to your partner about signs and symptoms, limiting sexual interactions if you can, team celibacy, washing any kind of bedding, fetish gear, toys, hand washing, considering having sex with your clothes on to limit skin-to-skin contact, gloves, avoid kissing and or swapping spit, condoms.
So just don't do it?
That's what I really got from the CDC in so many words.
Got it. Okay.
Especially the consider having sex with your clothes on. I thought that was interesting because, like...
Yeah, me too. Like, how?
Yeah. I mean, you can.
Logistically, like... I mean, I guess, but, like, you're still touching at some point skin to skin.
Yeah, that's what I say. I feel like, honestly, by the time you get there, if you're going to get monkeypox, you know, may as well finish.
You already had it, in my personal opinion. Like, girl.
Why keep the clothes on?
Seriously. You already... I mean, like... Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I'm just like, if you really want to limit... First off, the only real limitation is just don't do it. That's number one.
Just don't do it, yeah, I think.
But I can't think of any other ways to totally limit skin-to-skin contact.
Yeah, no. Because even with clothes, your genitals are going to touch.
Exactly.
Like that person's literally going to be either inside of you or going to be inside that person. Yeah, but I mean,
but that's still, yeah, I know.
But then the outside portion, that's not.
That's what I say.
I don't know if they're thinking about this clearly.
I think they probably had to put that on there. Really, maybe. I think what they're saying is limit sexual interactions.
So just say that then.
Yeah, and I think they mean that as in like, not that you can't have sex because, like, you know, God forbid you say that, people aren't going to stop doing that.
You know, I was just thinking about that. Like, this is a man-dominated world, so of course they're not going to say that.
They're not going to stop doing that. But I do think that, although that's a different topic for a different day, because ladies, I think.
Oh God, let's not get her on this high horse.
We're not going this time, but I'm just saying. I just think if you decide to just disengage, I don't think that's a bad thing. Anyways, that's another conversation. But what I think back to monkeypox, I think what they're trying to say is like limit your sexual interactions with like basically hookups. Like don't just be getting with anybody and you don't know if they have the disease or not. Like if you obviously have a regular partner that you would already have checked out basically. Mm-hmm. Which is like that's good sexual health anyways, is to like first off have more limited partners as much as possible to try to limit the potential of an STD or something, because you're not moving from person to person. But this is hookup culture, so it's wild to me because I'm like, I guess maybe I just don't know that many people, or I don't get out that much, but I'm like, people act like it's so hard to like disengage from hookup culture, and I'm like, I do it every day, so I don't get it. But I guess I'm not the standard, so
you're not average. Sorry, kiddo.
I'm unaverage, so
very much.
It's not hard for me to resist.
Facts.
Well, actually, you know why it's not hard? Because nobody's that attracted to me.
That's not true.
To me, that's why I said to me. I'm not saying to everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
that's why you have your little admirer.
I don't walk around the world trying to like. I guess it'd be different if I was interested in somebody, but I'm just like, it's not hard because I'm like not, and like nobody has come to my space that I would be interested in.
Sure.
Now I like. It's not saying people don't approach you often, because they will definitely approach you often, but like that doesn't mean you reciprocate, Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. And, yeah, you got any 2 cents you want to say?
I am pleading the fifth.
Okay, so they do actually have CDC vaccinations for monkeypox. Or CDC approved vaccination. I don't know if they're like giving it to the public yet, but they do have vaccinations that are approved for the virus. So
interesting.
Yeah,
Did not know that.
I don't think the outbreak's on a scale wide enough to disseminate it the same way that like COVID was.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, because I read something,
which I cannot take another vaccine. Like, let me breathe, CDC, please. Right.
It's just like vaccine. This is the most vaccines I've taken since I've
ever had.
Born.
Seriously. No, that's actually not true. I had to get all my vaccines over again. So
that's right. You had to do that. I didn't have to.
Yeah, that was freaking torture.
I didn't have to.
Which I have to get them over again. Ugh.
Why?
Because for work.
That's right. You work in the medical field.
Don't remind me.
Bro, the jobs
I don't work in I work in research, so it's like, do I really need all of this, guys?
Well, if you're gonna be around the disease, or you're gonna be around like,
I'm not gonna be around anybody. I literally like work in my department, and that's it. I'm not even patient facing, so I don't have to be around patients.
Oh, I'm sure that's a great position then.
Oh yeah,
you don't have to be around patients.
I definitely do. Don't mind it.
To work with the public.
Yeah, healthcare is exhausting, so I'm excited to be out of like the forefront.
No, I feel that. Maybe I'll just keep doing research for the rest of your life. What do you think?
I honestly think so. Not gonna cap. If I work like a corporate job, probably. Mm-hmm.
You can keep working on grants and stuff.
Exactly.
It'd be fun. Or you
Which
can
is
work
always like research studies. So,
or you could do the CDC or something at a certain point.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what the future holds. Hopefully the CDC doesn't hear this episode.
That one time.
They're gonna be like, you're not eligible for hire.
You don't even support our mission.
Right. Oops.
My bad. Sorry, Fouch.
Right. I like Fouch. Fouch is cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I just the times I would see him like up on like, you know, press conferences, especially but like during the Trump administration, he just looks so like, oh my god,
right? You be looking so shocked, like no way.
You guys, how the world is like ending, and
right.
I can, like, stand on this podium and like smile as if nothing is happening.
Right, like lie to these people.
And, like the CDC is literally like on fire right now.
Right.
They're like,
no, the CDC went through some. They were not very hot for a while.
Or especially
but I think it was just because like there was just a lack of education. Like they have to like do these experiments to figure out X, Y, and Z, and people don't. They expect
like
all these people to have immediate answers, and so that's one thing. That's just not how that field works. Like that's not how health works. You don't know until it becomes a problem or an issue. So, you have to also be lenient with those people too, because they genuinely do not know. There's like genuinely nothing they can do outside of research.
Exactly.
So they're in the same position as you, babes. I promise you, if not worse, because now they have all this heat on them. So,
no, I feel that. And like the administration that they were previously under.
Yeah, questionable. Period.
Yeah, questionable in general, but they had this sort of like, whatever, we don't need to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is a massive issue. Like, this is a problem, And
the thing is, they had to do that without like alerting the public into hysteria. So could you imagine? Well, with, your president, the one who you're supposed to be able to like coincide with on these matters, it was not that at all. So.
Yeah. I know that was a rough patch for them.
Oh, I know.
They
sure.
Suddenly have like the hardest job in America.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like, and then like, they're like crisis management too at the time. Like, there's just so much that was going on, I think, for them that they probably need an extra 2 weeks of vacation this year.
Oh, easily. Honestly, a year off, because dealing with that, and like the thing is, COVID has not gone away. So, it's like they're still dealing with this. There's a new strain every other day. Yeah. So they still don't have time off.
I could only imagine that had to be a very tough job. It probably went from like, pretty even kill stuff to like 1,000 in a matter of weeks, and I think
and just because of the public urge to know things, have answers, you had, different political parties saying this, that, and the other. Like, it was almost like they were being unsupported. In the work that they were doing.
I can, bro. I'm not going to pretend Fauci that I had anything near Fauci, but I can imagine that it just felt like being a chicken with your head cut off, running around like you're trying to do what you can, and nobody's helping you. That's how.
Exactly.
Another job.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Right. And especially like with a situation like that would be the time to listen to him, take him seriously. Like he knows more than the person who was leading the way, unfortunately. So it's just like, ugh. And people believed that individual, unfortunately. So hopefully he gets sentenced.
They made it, because they made it a freaking like political thing that is actually not. And I mean, I'm going to blame our school systems too, because nobody has any concept of public health until something like a pandemic happens. Like you have per individual health and sort of like nutrition, maybe a little bit. That's not fully taught either. And then you have biology or whatever. So you can understand some basics of how this might happen. But I mean, the idea of like large scale groups of people being affected by a singular disease, that's
you don't teach that.
Ever taught ever. Unless you go into something very specific like Caitlin went into with public health, or take maybe in a sociology class, maybe, or
But
something.
even then, you don't take it. You do more of like the social skill in
Yeah,
sociology.
yeah. I was gonna say even then, you just have to like educate yourself. So they were really starting from ground zero. I felt like with just public
Facts.
education and getting it
Mm-hmm.
out there, um, and all
I
that.
think also too, it like showed the public's level of ignorance, and the willingness to be ignorant was an all-time high.
All time high. I get that, and it was just it was like it was honestly disgusting. I know from the little microcosm I was in, just the way people were just totally dismissive of
Like COVID did not exist, but you're getting sick with COVID every week.
Yeah.
I never understood it.
I remember I don't know if I told this story on here, but they had just declared a national emergency. And I had only been at this place for like a month or two, but the Trump administration had declared a national emergency. Okay. So they took it seriously enough to call a national emergency. So this is an issue. And mind you, I'm in an office full of people who are your stereotypical Trump supporters. Like that's who they are. Okay. Through and through. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting at my desk, I'm getting all the news coming in, and I don't pay attention to diseases and stuff like that because like not my vibe, not my thing. But it was becoming in the news cycle every day, and these cases are rising, and I was like, hold on now. And so I go to my boss and be like, so is there a company protocol for what's going to happen given the pandemic, a legitimate concern, right? And like the boss goes like, I'm not concerned about a pandemic. I mean, it's not even real, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't even have a problem. And I was like, how do you think that makes, I had just started this company. I'm like, what do you think that makes somebody feel? And they're like, oh, well, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Whatever. Like, I don't give, and I don't know why you care kind of thing. And I'm like, that then and there, that's when I really stopped like interacting with that person. But like, I was just like, the way they're just being so totally dismissive of it, as if they didn't just call it a national emergency for a disease. And then people in the office started cropping up with COVID and all of that stuff. So I was like, this is real. And you like, are we not going to take any sort of like personal steps to try to, whatever, And we're just very dismissive of the whole thing. And then dismissive of me on top of that. Like basically the way he made it feel to me is this, like I shouldn't have been asking that in the first place. Like it was wrong of me to even ask a question about what the proper protocol was moving
and when
forward.
Your health is at risk, like what the heck?
When I'm coming to this office every day and my health's at risk, but so is everybody else's. And I just wanted to know, what was the plan? Was there something that, and I wasn't even trying to ask to go home. I was like, what's the plan just even in the office? And which is a legitimate question. And they were just like, you shouldn't even have anything to say about it. Like that lets you know what the culture was if you needed to know. But like, yeah, I remember that and just being like, okay, not it for me.
It's a no.
Yeah. And like a couple of weeks later, they brought in a nurse. I think it was because I actually brought up that concern, but they like brought in a nurse to like every week or whatever to like check people out, to like see if, I guess,
once a week you can get COVID any day of the week.
Exactly, like showing signs or symptoms, and they did that for a couple weeks. And I guess it was just like to attempt to be appeasing to either me or anybody who might be concerned. But they never directly addressed it with anybody. They just like brought in the nurse. Were like, oh, like they had this like roundabout conversation, be like, oh, do you guys want to have a nurse? Like didn't address it with me or anybody directly, And I was like, I mean, I guess I can go to the nurse. It's not that I have a problem getting checked out by the nurse, but that doesn't stop the spread. Like that's not taking steps to stop the spread. That's like,
and it was literally, I mean, COVID is airborne. So it's like you have no idea who you're coming in contact with.
And the pandemic went on for a year and a half and they stopped having the nurse after like a month or two. So I was like, this is going to continue. Nobody was wearing masks. That's crazy. Washing their hands regularly. I did my best to stay away from. I just like boarded myself in my cubicle and try to stay away from them as much as possible. Mainly because they were also just a-holes, so I didn't want to be around them. But dang sure, because they sneeze and like touch stuff, So I was like, just stay away from them, all in all, But
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's my pandemic story.
I'm
And I
not
was
surprised
actually, I
though.
was genuinely, at the time, because I was staying with our mother who actually does have a chronic illness. Um, our mother's diabetic, or like, I guess mom's like half diabetic. I don't know what to call her right now.
She's
But
diabetic. She has been diagnosed, but she also has psoriasis. So
yeah, she has psoriasis, and
she's on medicines that basically suppress her immune system and whatnot for her psoriasis. So it was a little bit of a, not even a little bit, it was a concern to have Courtney just, out and exposed
and
to
now
different
exposed to people who like
things.
weren't taking it seriously and weren't
Yeah.
going to, because it's not just them and their families, it's like it's everybody has somebody in their life and you're just not taking that into concern, and you're not even concerned about people who like have the possibility that someone else might have somebody at home. And I always found it ironic because they were people, the type of people to stand outside chain smoking cigarettes in their 50s, 40s and 50s.
They
So
were
it's like,
asking for COVID then.
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, if COVID comes up in here, is y'all going out first? Y'all need to be the first ones with the masks on, okay? Like,
Those cancer sticks are no joke.
What'd you say?
Those cancer sticks are no joke. Leave those alone, people.
Exactly. I'm like, y'all sitting out here chain smoking every day, talking about COVID doesn't exist. Okay. Okay.
The main one with COVID.
Exactly. So, but I
Yeah,
guess
no.
I feel like they're probably, I mean, they've been chain smoking for how many years? So I guess they don't care whether they live or die. I don't know. They
I'm
probably don't.
dead.
I mean, by the time you chain smoke, you 50 something years old, you still chain smoking. There's a good
Yeah,
chance
that always beats me.
you have less interest in living a long time,
I mean, I would think, but you be the
But
main. They be the main ones in the hospital. I don't want to die. Like, okay,
exactly, yeah.
but go back home and do the same thing they did before.
I think honestly that just showed me that was like, first off, it was a toxic environment, but it's also a toxic masculine environment where I just think they see like any disease or any of that as like weakness or showing signs of weakness somehow or taking something seriously. And so they s- they just felt like, well, we don't need to pay attention to that. What do they know? Hardy, har. Like that's how they
As
were.
if you know something
As if
different. Like what?
yeah, like as if you know anything more. You
Also,
don't.
might check. You are not
Well,
the director of the CDC. Like what?
exactly.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
it was that type of environment, and again, that was the first time I'd ever been in any kind of environment like that. So I was just I was like reverse culture shock. I'm really not even gonna lie. It was just reverse. It was culture shock for me because normally people get culture shock when they like elevate into like higher statuses or whatever. I was culture shock going into like lowbrow statuses or like just more lowbrow environments where people just don't care. And I was like, this is the gutter, quite literally the gutter. Anyway,
Yeah, that's.
I'm glad your jobs took it seriously though, enough to at least make y'all wear masks.
Oh yeah, no, mine did. Yeah, we had to wear masks. And we had to get our temperature taken every day. They had a nurse on staff at one point. Then they eventually switched over to these little like automated machines. But you had to check your temperature before you came on site every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what else did they have? You couldn't go into buildings without a mask. So I worked on the construction side at the time, and you had to, if you're going inside any building, you had to have everything on. What else? They also limited the amount of people on site. So like a lot of people were like, you had to go home, or like if you were not doing something on site immediately, you were not allowed on site.
Mm-hmm.
What else? You had to get COVID tested. So say you got COVID. Say you had COVID, you had to get COVID tested before you could come on site, which I think that's normal. They also had people like COVID people come out and test a couple days a week. So it was like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of thing. What else? All the workers, the construction workers, had to get their temperature taken before they could go on site as well. You had to, if you had COVID, you had to report it. They also had COVID pay, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
What else? They also had like, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, I used to get like an additional like $200 a week.
We didn't even get hazard pay.
COVID pay.
Office that entire time, the entire pandemic, basically all of 2020 and a little bit.
I mean, I think that's the difference between working for like a company that I was working for, because they take those things very seriously. There's a lot of like, especially at that particular place, there was a lot of stuff that could not go without 24 supervision, or it would be like shut down kind of thing. And so there always had to be somebody on site. And so, I mean, it was just a lot of stuff that had to be protected at all costs in order to keep the internet running, essentially. So,
Can't relate.
I know.
That job was just, I don't know. It was the culture, but it was also just the way they ostracized people who didn't, submit to their culture,
True.
and the way they, like with the pandemic, they just dismissed people and dismissed things that are going on. And I'm like, what do you gain from this? You're not winning. You're not winning.
Gain ignorance. That's it.
You're not making anybody stay at the company longer. You're not making people invested. Nobody likes anybody in this space. Like everybody's just sort of out for themselves. Like, what do you gain? And like all I could think to do in that company space is just to protect myself and just remove myself from the culture, because I knew it just was not me, and I could not. I really couldn't stomach it, but I couldn't succumb to it either. Like,
yeah,
I did not want that changing me, and I'm so glad it's off me. Anyways, moving on.
New you.
Seriously, like, oh, y'all got a toxic job. Get out of there. That's all I'm gonna say.
Seriously, I feel that. I got out of mine in 6 months, well, less than 6 months. So
yeah,
there you go.
The quicker the better. I stayed for a long time.
No, I was there for 6 weeks. I knew on the second day that I went back, I was like, this is not for me. And I started looking. So
you gotta
be proactive.
You gotta know. You gotta really know. And pay attention to your feelings. Like, do you walk in here and feel like crap, or do you actually really like the vibe, the energy,
Facts.
So, yeah.
But yeah.
So, a couple of more like World Health Organization facts about monkeypox is they actually consider this less severe than smallpox was. And really? I think smallpox has been pretty much eradicated. Pretty much, yeah. I would imagine. I think the vaccine uses the same antiviral agents as the smallpox vaccine, so that's how similarly linked they actually are. So I think a vaccine for monkeypox will probably come out pretty soon, since they already have that smallpox.
You already have one. You said it earlier.
Yeah, they do have it. I just don't think it's been as widely distributed.
Yeah, and I think it's like if you have monkeypox, then you get it.
Yeah. And something I thought was interesting that the World Health Organization put out, and it's probably more trustworthy because the World Health is really looking at the entire globe versus the CDC, which is America and the U.S. focused. But they said this mostly began through international travel. And for some reason, to me, this was just giving me sex tourism. Like, how like older folks, older wealthy people will like go to these like underdeveloped countries and like basically for sex tourism, either like for males or for girls, and they'll like kind of go and have these like affairs or whatever with people.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I think when they were saying like international travel, it could definitely obviously be like skin to skin contact, but I just see it being sex tourism related for some reason.
Maybe the CDC is onto something we don't know.
Maybe. Because you definitely heard about like the older white guys who go to Thailand like habitually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's other countries too. So
yeah, there's other countries too that like
there's like a long list.
Yeah, and there's like it's historically noted because those countries have lower ages of consent. So like girls could be 14, 15. He's like old dudes, which is sick. But But yeah, that was just when they were saying international travel, I was getting sex tourism for some reason.
Wow, interesting.
In my mind, that's what it was going to. Maybe because that was in combination with what the CDC is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what do you think about that? Or do you think it's just regular, business travel or, just
No, I
traveling?
can see that. I could see that because you're in close proximity with said person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be one of the easiest way to do it, especially if you're doing like participating in illicit activities, and especially the girls that they use are being pumped with God knows what a lot of the times, are not coherent, like are not aware of a lot of things, drugged. And so that's highly possible now. So, and
Yeah.
people, I mean, men do some weird things. So,
Yeah. And not just men, like women also do sex tourism
oh
too.
yeah,
I just
for
think
sure.
I think we know more about like older men going to countries like Thailand or something like that, where they
Mm-hmm.
have historically been known to like get young girls because it's
Yeah.
more acceptable then, and they're treated like royalty, unlike in the West where women have standards.
I'm
Anyway,
gonna say nobody
that's
cares.
really what it is. It's because like they're usually the type of men who don't have access to women in the West because of the way they behave, their outlook on life, all these like standards that they just want relaxed, which is
Weird.
gross. But so yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then obviously, like I was saying, just that plain old skin to skin contact, going out partying or, night clubbing, whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff can definitely come up.
Moral of the story: wear long sleeves at all times.
Yeah, even if it's 110 outside.
Exactly. You get it.
Seriously.
No, I mean, I think, to protect yourself, that could be a possible. See, the CDC could have used that as a solution. Wear a long sleeve
Yeah, that could have very well been a solution too.
instead of targeting freaking the gays.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they did say sexual intercourse with clothes on.
Come on, like there's no possible way. Like you're literally that person's. Do I need to explain an anatomy class at a CDC then? Because like, come on. Apparently, we're not understanding.
What if we like bomb rush the CDC and we're like, all right, we're here to give a lecture.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody to the back. You too, Fauch. Let's go, bud.
I would be girling. Hey, Fauch, how you doing? No, I'm just kidding. He's a whole celebrity out here these days.
They could do like small like cohorts or groups from different people with different ages, because it could help them understand what age groups are actually doing out there in the wild and the field.
Honestly, though, that's not a bad idea. I think also having like a board of like different ages or something like that, where you have representatives from different age groups to also better educate too, because
I know Fox doesn't know what 25-year-olds are doing. I know he doesn't.
I'm sure he's not aware. He hasn't been 25 for a very long time.
Exactly. And not saying that all 25-year-olds are like out partying. Actually, because of the pandemic, a lot of people aren't. But like I don't know if they really understand like house culture, party culture, or like kickback culture, kind of that, or like even like out in LA, a lot of people go to pop-ups and stuff, or like block parties. I don't know if they really understand what really happens there,
Yeah.
Unless they got Snapchat. Well, not Snapchat, sorry, TikTok.
I want to say Snapchat.
Not Snapchat.
Girl.
TikTok.
We're really trying to age these folks.
Who even gets on Snapchat anymore? I don't even know.
I actually get on Snapchat every now and again.
You do?
Yeah, but it's like just to check and see, because like my friends will post on there every now and again.
Snapchat gives me vibes.
No, that's hookup culture for sure. That's hookup culture.
Snapchat, yeah. I remember the first time I got introduced to Snapchat, I was like, what the heck? I'm always very skeptical of new social media sites until after it's like well into its like famous stage. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
But now I'm on TikTok every day. Like TikTok actually is where I get all my information from.
which is not reliable. Oh God.
I think it's reliable, but like, wait, do you get on TikTok? Do you have TikTok? Yeah, you
Oh
have
yeah, no, I
TikTok.
have TikTok, and there's a lot of stuff I get from there, but I do have to like remind myself, okay, Lynn, this not everything is reliable. You can't trust everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody, if you leave with a TikTok, everybody is a physician, everybody is an epidemiologist, everybody is something that they are not.
like
So
psychologist or a therapist or something. Yeah,
exactly. So we're a
I
spiritual warfare leader.
this did like tarot cards.
Yes, like
They're
ugh.
like, this week something amazing is gonna happen to you, and like I'd be like, oh my god, stop! But I'd be like, look
Here
here
we
on
go
the
again.
like, hold on now, because I do need a miracle.
Right, scroll back, like, hold on. Let me listen to that sound. Let me add it to a video.
Hold on,
Facts.
just in case.
Seriously. Record a video you're never gonna post. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so now that monkeypox has been declared a state of emergency, what precautions we should be taking, or just what that means? Because when they first declared it a state of emergency, I was a little bit afraid because I was like, oh God, not another, pandemic. This is never going to end. It's taking all my 20s, right?
Seriously.
But the reason I found out, I did a little digging, and I found out that basically the main reason why they declared it a state of emergency is like for funding reasons, because once you're able to declare it an emergency through the Department of Health and Human Services, you get more funding that they need to protect the public from a more widespread outbreak. So
Got it. Okay.
they're calling, basically, it's like protocol. Like you call it an emergency, then they can route different monies to different things, which anybody who's ever worked grants or worked even like being like a treasurer or any of that, wording is key in those situations. When you call something, the official name, then it unlocks the
funding.
That you need to. So
the resources.
I'm sure that's what was probably recommended to the Biden administration, and they were like, okay, let's just go ahead and call it an emergency, even though I think there's only been like 8,000 or 9,000 cases in the U.S., which is small cookies in comparison to COVID. So I think that's why they called it that. And so that's a good thing to know, because a lot of people, I think they just hear emergency and they're like panicking, like, go get the toilet paper, right? But it's not that kind
Are you that person?
No.
Okay.
I was not, no, but I do remember when like toilet paper, I was like going to Target, in Lexington, and there just was no toilet paper, like no sanitation supplies, and I was like, I was still staying with mom at the time, so I was really trying to like get some stuff to just make sure I was staying as safe as possible around mom, and I just couldn't find stuff. Like I had to like do some serious digging to get like even masks and stuff at the very beginning.
Really? Bro, I literally bought my first box of masks the other day, like 2 days ago.
Really?
I never had to buy them. Like I was always supplied them.
Wow.
Yeah, and even like toilet paper and tissue, I just started buying those.
No, I had to buy masks. I had to buy toilet paper. Well, no, I had to buy toilet paper at mom's house. That was supplied in my rent money.
Wow. Wow. Can't relate.
I had to buy I bought sanitation supplies and stuff just to try to,
help out. Got it.
Help out. And because I tried to keep like the upstairs area as like clean as possible, because mom didn't go up there. So I tried to keep it clean for myself. So I would buy all the cleaning supplies or whatever, And then, I mean, if I needed something, I would go jack it from mom. But
wow,
mom. I try not to do it too much. But
only when necessary.
Buy every mask I had, I bought. I
never had to buy one.
Yeah, our job didn't even supply us with masks. They put a sign of "Gotta wear a mask" on the door. Nobody put on a mask, and they did not supply us with masks. And they bought one big tub of hand sanitizer and brought it and said we're supposed to separate 6 feet away from each other. But they never moved anybody. Nobody ever moved desks. That was the COVID plan.
Phew, that's funny.
And one of the guys who was sitting beside me went home for like a couple months, which I was. Yeah, or I don't think he was actually sick with COVID, but I think this person's spouse. I'm sorry for that. Wanted them to stay home because of the pandemic. This was also the person who was creeping on me. So I didn't realize that until the person had come back after the pandemic, that this person was creepy.
This job was just traumatic, honey.
And which is wild to me because you went home because of your spouse and you come back to creep on the person sitting next to you at your office. What a skis ball. Anyways.
So then you don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
On to better things.
But yeah, that was their response to COVID, which wasn't a response. And I had to buy all my stuff from Target or because they started to do like the cute little mask or whatever, and I was like, well, may as well make it fashion.
Oh God, that was the least of my concern.
So like would get them from Target, or like when they actually started resupplying with like toilet paper and all that stuff, then I would go get it. But I was solely responsible for my COVID protection myself.
Dang.
Yeah, I wish I'd had a job that handed out masks and stuff, but
facts. It definitely helped with like as far as like expenses and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it was none of that. We didn't even wear a mask when the nurse showed up.
Wow. What did she do?
Like, pretend. She would just take it. I mean, she was being paid like hourly, so I don't know if she really cared. It was like, run me the money. So she would wear a mask, and she would come in with scrubs and like a standard nurse would, protecting herself. But no, she came to the office where nobody was wearing a mask. Nobody was like, the vaccine hadn't dropped yet, so it wasn't that. Nobody was social distancing. So I'm sure for her, she was like, I mean, if COVID's gonna exist, it's gonna come here, or like, because you're not taking any kind of precautions. Like from a nurse on the outside looking in and walking into it, you're like, well, let me pull my mask up since nobody else is wearing one.
Seriously.
And some of the people were like traveling technicians, so they would travel to other places in the U.S. and you don't know where they're contacting there. Then they come back, sit in the office with us, and after they've been on planes and trains and automobiles or whatever, and been in somebody else's shop, stayed in hotels, like done all, you know what I mean? Like, like actually traveling around still in the height of the pandemic, and then coming back, sitting in the office for a couple weeks, exposing us. And we go to our family every day. And it was just I'm like, the travel schedule, these people, you schedule their travel, and they just did not care. They just did not care. And that was wild to me.
Yeah, well, you worked in the backwoods of no man's land, so.
Yeah. For a tool company. So I know that wasn't the most like progressive company I could have worked at. And I'm expecting a lot from like, it's like expecting a 2-year-old to do algebra. I get that. Like I was not at the CDC where they should have been following every guideline. I get that. But like some sort of initiative would have been nice.
Appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my job probably took it like very serious.
And they should have. It was spreading like a wildfire. And you were were you in South Carolina at the time?
Yeah, I was in Charleston.
Yeah. It's like, it wasn't like South Carolina didn't have cases. Like thousands of cases were popping up like daily.
Yeah.
At that point. So it wasn't that there weren't cases. People also just chose.
South Carolina didn't even shut down. So it was like, what?
No, they didn't. They really didn't. I mean,
like nothing ever happened.
I think the most that they did was
a couple days, like a week or so.
Yeah. Like they require mask mandates inside like all public buildings for a while. Then they eventually lifted that.
Yeah, they like shut down for like a week because I remember I was working at our furniture store then. But that was it. Yeah.
And then they got right back to doing things as usual. Or trying to. That's why when I came to the West Coast and I realized they were still like just getting started in 2022 when I first arrived in the West Coast, I was like, life has been continuing on the East Coast and the South anyways for the last year and a half. So I was like stepping back into the pandemic when I came out here.
Facts.
Pretty much.
The funny thing is, because like before I got the job at this last job where like majority of the COVID stuff was like actually happening, I worked in a dentist's office before, and they took less precaution than the tech company that I was working for.
That's crazy.
So yeah, the dentist, she really didn't care. She was like, as long as we're making the money for her, that's
Yeah.
all she cared about.
And that's the thing too. I've noticed the smaller company, like, or the more independent companies, because the dentist office was an independent company basically.
Yeah.
And same thing with the company I was working at. They're like owned by one family essentially. I think the smaller companies just did not. Maybe they didn't have the resources to really fully do it the same way that like a bigger company would. But I
Y'all
don't know.
didn't apply for the PPP loan? Like what?
Yeah, I guess not. Because the actually, you know what? Now that you're mentioning it, the big company I did recently just do that job with they took that way more seriously. Took the pandemic way more seriously.
Yeah, I bet.
And this was a big company that definitely had the resources to put into precautions. So it could have been a resource thing. I think some of it was just laziness too. That's what I said. I genuinely think. I think wearing a mask is the least you could do. That doesn't cost you nearly as much money as, testing every day and getting things shipped off to, or paying people to come do tests and all that stuff like that. That does cost money, but a mask, requiring people wear a mask and distance, that's free, pretty much.
Seriously, that's the least you could do.
That's the very least you could do. So, but anyway, anything else you want to talk about as far as it relates to monkeypox? Anything else you noted? Anything else you think would be interesting to bring up?
Not really. I mean, there's just a lot of information that's lacking with monkeypox. I will say, just like take care of yourself. Stay in tune with your bodies and stuff like that. Definitely just take all precautions that you can take, and like try to stay up on these things because they're forever changing. So
yeah,
but yeah, thanks for listening in on the monkeypox episode.
Yeah, we're not obviously, like we said, nobody's really sure where like the disease or the outbreak. I don't even think it's really considered a pandemic or an epidemic yet. But
I don't think so.
But the outbreak is probably the best word. We're not sure where it's going, but we definitely want to stay up on it, continue to monitor the situation as the CDC is monitoring the situation and the World Health Organization and so many other organizations are monitoring the situation. So just definitely stay safe. We try to give some signs and symptoms. And we hope you guys will either, choose to abide by that, or do research on your own and figure out like what would work best for you to stay safe. Monkeypox, with monkeypox going around, as well as with COVID still very much. You want to stay safe with that too. So, yeah, thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed our talk, and we hope you join us in the next Keiko Talks. Bye, guys.
Bye.